Okay, good evening. Hello again. It's been a little while. Man, I tell you what, we've been getting some of the YouTube stuff dialed in here, so I appreciate your patience with me. And it is Sunday, April 29th, 7 p.m. Welcome to DPF Guys Live. It's episode 26, and of course, located in Atlanta, Georgia. We are 636 Cordell Drive in Atlanta. And of course, if you want to call us or text us, 404 999 1361. But anyway, so um, normally we go through some Q&A, but I do want to touch on some subjects that have come up quite a bit in the last couple of weeks for whatever reason. And it is Freightliner related. Um, but first, welcome. Thanks for joining us. We are DPF Guys based in Atlanta. We focus 100% on diesel aftertreatment services for anything with a diesel engine and an emission system. Most of our customers are fleets, mechanics, and owner operators of over-the-road equipment, but we also service after-treatment for diesel passenger vehicles. Just did a Jaguar a couple days ago, did a Range Rover a couple days before that. Off-road equipment, a lot of tractors, Kubotas, excavators, etc., and light stuff as well, and stationary equipment, generators, pumps, rock crushers, and more. If it has a DPF, we can clean it. Disclaimer: you should always talk to your mechanic about any concerns you have with your engine or truck, and any prices discussed here may or may not apply to you and should only be used as a guideline and is not any form an official quote for anybody servicing your truck, such as ourselves or anybody else. So, anyway, I can almost turn off my teleprompter right now because we're going to be talking specifically about two specific iterations of a Freightliner truck. One of them is the Freightliner Cascadia, specifically the 2015 vintage Cascadia. This can affect other ones as well. So I guess I should say anything out there, minus the Gen 5 Freightliners, which are going to be the 23, 24s, maybe some 22s. They have a whole separate issue that maybe we'll touch on next week. But this is going to be primarily the 2014, 15s, and 16s, but I have seen this happen on the Freightliner Cascadias that are newer as well. So, if you are driving a Freightliner Cascadia with a Detroit engine and a one box, we're going to talk about an M2 in a second here. So, if you've got an M2, hang tight. We're going to get there shortly. So if you're driving a Freightliner Cascadia or similar with a Detroit engine, DD13, DD15, and a one box, now this is especially pertinent to you if you have a 2015 vintage, which again is going to be 2015, obviously, but it starts in 2014, all of 2015, ends in 2016. But I've been seeing the same problem on later models as well, 2019s, and here is the symptom. If you're getting this symptom, don't even bother replacing your DEF header. Don't bother replacing your DEF pump. Don't bother replacing your NOx sensors because you probably need a new one box. And I know that's not happy news, but it's just a fact, and I want to get you to the point of solving your problem as quickly as possible and as inexpensively as possible versus spending $10,000 to basically discover that you need to spend an additional 10 or 20. Man, I hate these numbers. But so if you've got a Freightliner Cascadia with a Detroit engine and this is the symptom that you are getting, the truck runs great if it's bobtail, or if you're lightly loaded and humming along on a flat road with the wind at your back so that the engine is barely working, everything seems fine. And in fact, what'll happen is you'll see this issue come up and you go to the dealership and you're not going to be pulling a load to the dealership. In fact, you probably pull it to the dealership bobtail. So there you go. They go in and they look at the codes, probably swap out a NOx sensor, outlet NOx sensor, most likely. Maybe they put in new DEF. Maybe you spend $1,300 or more on a DEF header and all the codes go away and you boogaloo out of there and truck is running great. So what do? Go to the terminal, pick up your load, 25, 30, 40,000 pounds, off you go. And then all of a sudden, chug, 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 you're going up a hill and bam, the codes come on again. And you're like, what the hell? and then you go back to the dealership and they go around and around. Um, so I want to talk to you about that. The root cause of this, apparently back at that vintage truck, there was an issue with the fuel mapping so that it was overfueling the engine, producing too much heat downstream. And what was happening is it burned out the SCR. I'm not going to go deep in the weeds about what an SCR is, everything else. I'm more than happy to answer that. In fact, if you want to text me at 404-999-1361, we can talk about that. But um, so there you go. Bobtail, flat road, lightly loaded, truck runs great. Up a hill with a load, it throws these codes. Generally speaking, you pull over to a parked regen, you're good again. And what'll happen is maybe it happens once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. And then it starts happening a little more often, a little more often, a little more often, and pretty soon you're poking along at 5 miles per hour or on the back of a tow truck. And we want to avoid that. So if you have the symptom where the truck runs great bobtail, but it chokes when it's working and it's throwing one of three codes, if not all of them. One of them is DEF quality. The other is SCR efficiency. The other is NOx conversion or some variation thereof. Me personally, I think that DEF quality code is completely, it's almost like the engineers are playing a joke on the drivers because it pushes you down the wrong, the wrong path to a dead end. So you're handling like, oh, I must have bad def. Oh, I must have a bad def header. Oh, I must have a bad pumper, something like that. Oh, I better put in an awning, a def awning. And it really comes down to the programming of the engine caused it to produce too much heat. And if the SCR in your truck, if you've got a DD13, DD15, and a one box, if that ever gets to about 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit or above, it's done. Now, maybe it only got to that temperature for a short while, so it's only partially done. Maybe it got to that temperature long enough where it's fully done. But no matter what, it's damaged and there's nothing you can do. Um, Now, I know that I've gotten some comments on TikTok, people saying, well, I've cleaned one boxes. I've had very good luck with that. And God bless you. I know what you mean. We do the same thing. And I really wish that I could magically make this problem go away. Unfortunately, you can't. When the SCR is damaged like that, it is just done. And the only solution is to replace the one box. Now, we do have replacement one boxes, brand new, excellent. They work really well, 3-year warranties, etc. Feel free to uh, text me at 404-999-1361 to learn more about that. But anyway, so that is the bad news. Now, I've seen the same thing happen on 2019s. It can really happen on any vintage Freightliner Cascadia um, or Western Star, anything with the DD13 or 15 engine and the one box. But if you're driving a Freightliner Cascadia with the Detroit engine and a one box, and it runs great if it's bobtail or lightly loaded, but it chokes on you when the engine starts to labor a bit, you probably have an issue with your SCR. And please understand that you can look at the SCR with the borescope; it'll look great. You can bake it, clean it, wash it. It doesn't change the fact that it got too hot at some point and it it burned up the SCR. It melted, it vaporized the catalytic metals off of that SCR, and it's not going to work. And you'll get DEF quality, you'll get NOx conversion codes. Oh, by the way, anybody out there who might be a mechanic, what you'll notice is you do your stuff, replace the NOx sensors, do all these things, replace the DEF header, drain the DEF, put new DEF in, and you put the truck in regen, and everything seems to be working really well. You'll have, let's say, about 300 parts per million on the inlet NOx, and 50 or 20 or 30 on the outlet NOx. It looks like it's converting the NOx perfectly, and then all of a sudden, bam, like that, the SCR simply stops working, and now you're not converting NOx at all. You'll get 300 parts per million in, 300 parts per million out. It's as if the SCR is not even there. Or even more strangely, the SCR itself will actually produce NOx as the DEF inside is burning, basically. So you'll have 300 parts per million on the way in and maybe even 400 parts per million on the way out. Anyway, whatever you're seeing, unfortunately, you have a failed one box that needs to get replaced. So there, I wish I had better news for you, but sometimes you just don't. But if you have a question about your Freightliner with a one box and you want to find out whether you might need to replace your one box or not, please, 404 text us, call us, and we will take care of you. If you do need a new one box, all we need from you is the last 6 of your VIN, and we can look it up for you and let you know exactly what we have and whether we can help you or not. All right. So that takes care of the topic of the Freightliner with the NOx conversion or DEF quality issue. Uh, so now let's talk about the Freightliner M2 with the Cummins 6.7 engine. So if you've got, in a lot of times people will purchase a Freightliner M2. They'll get it at a dealer or they'll buy it used, and the truck actually seems pretty good. But you drive it for a while, and all of a sudden you get codes indicating that the DPF is full. The DPF is plugged up. And so you bring it to somebody like us or somebody similar, and you say, hey, clean the DPF. And DPF DOC is pulled off, and we'll see that it's just loaded up with soot, really thick. And also, more often than not, the DPF itself is cracked, is bypassing soot. Um, and sometimes these M2s will have SCR codes as well, because what happens is if the DPF is cracked, this can happen on an M2, can happen on any truck for that matter. If you use DEF in your truck and you have a cracked DPF, the soot sneaks through and will build up in the SCR. Now, some SCRs are more affected by this than others, but that's called poisoning the SCR. When it gets so full of soot that it can no longer convert the NOx. So not only do you have a plugged up DPF that's cracked, you have an SCR that is now malfunctioning because it is full of soot. So if somebody such as yourself has got a Freightliner M2, and it usually happens when the Freightliner M2 again, it has to have a 6.7 Cummins engine. This doesn't happen with the Detroit engines, which is what DD8. Oh man, I tell you, it's a rare one, but there is a Detroit out there. It's like a little 4-cylinder with 200 horsepower. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the M2 with the Cummins 6.7 engine. At about 250,000 miles, you can set your Mickey Mouse watch by this and almost guarantee that you will begin to have injector failures on a Freightliner M2 with a Cummins engine. And what happens, that injector failure can be very challenging because it doesn't throw a code. I don't know exactly what happens. I'm kind of speculating here, but it appears to me that the tip of the injector wears. And of course, somebody can please comment below with what you actually think this is. But the tip of the injector wears out, and it begins to drip, drip, drip additional fuel in, which does two things. One is produces excessive soot and will plug things up downstream, and that will include your EGR valve, will include your EGR cooler. That will get really crapped up with soot. And to the point, the EGR cooler can actually get like a knot of, like it's a lump of coal in it that doesn't want to come out. You need to replace your EGR cooler. But the odd thing about this is that the problem is down at the tip of the injector, just the tip, and not up at the electronics controlling it, the circuit board controlling it. So there's no code thrown. All you can do is look for excessive soot, or the DPF will make it very, very obvious. So if you've got a Freightliner M2 with 250,000 miles and you have not replaced all 6 injectors yet, you are probably going to want to do that, because otherwise you'll be chasing this problem until you're blue in the face and you will not be able to resolve it. If you have a Freightliner M2 and want us to take a look at it, 404-999-1361. But so what you need to do to resolve this issue is a 6-pack, not a 6-pack, a six-pack of injectors, and get your DOC cleaned, get your DPF cleaned. If your DPF is cracked, get that replaced. If your DPF is cracked and you're getting SCR or NOx efficiency codes, then you'd want to get your SCR cleaned as well. You definitely want to get into the delta P, or the pressure differential sensor for the EGR cooler and clean that out as well. You can do that with just simply a piece of mechanics wire. And if you're getting flow codes for the EGR, you'd want to get that cleaned as well. Now, so that's really it. Freightliner Cascadia. If you're getting def quality codes, you probably need a new one box, especially when those codes come up only when the truck is laboring. If you have a Freightliner M2 with 250,000 miles on it, Freightliner M2 with a Cummins 6.7 engine, and the thing has 250,000 miles on it or more, you're going to need a 6-pack of injectors. As an aside, you might say, well, why replace all 6 injectors? Because maybe only 1 or 2 are bad. Now, by the time you go through the trouble of pulling all 6 injectors off, sending them out to be tested, finding out which ones are bad, yes, maybe only 1 or 2 or 3 of them are bad. The other ones are good. Why spend that money to replace all of them? The problem is that if injectors, let's say 1 and 3 are bad, well, guess what? 2, 4, 5 and 6 are close behind. So you want to replace all 6 of them. M2 is a good truck. Just that Cummins engine will start to poop out the injectors at about 250,000 miles and plug up the DPF really badly. In fact, if it's doing this, no matter what you do, if you clean the DPF really well, replace the DPF, once the injectors get to a certain point, you'll be lucky to make it 500, 600, maybe 700 miles before you're on the side of the road with DPF issues. Again, fix the injectors before anything else. And that's it. I'm going to do a real quick one. So I'm, kind of on and off here. Another thing, just a quick reminder is if you have a truck with a Cummins engine and you are having SCR issues, SCR codes, NOx conversion codes, please do yourself a favor and contact Cummins with your ESN, your engine serial number, and your VIN, vehicle identification number, of course, and ask them if your SCR is potentially under recall. Now I realize it's been a while since they've done that massive SCR recall they did a few years ago, but if your truck has not taken advantage of the SCR recall, it's possible that Cummins, we will have a brand new SCR for you. So before you buy another SCR or spend a bunch of time troubleshooting it, if you are having NOx conversion issues on any truck with a Cummins engine, you owe it to yourself to contact Cummins, the local dealer, the local certified Cummins service people, and give them your engine serial number and VIN and ask them whether your SCR might qualify for a recall. But anyway, thank you very much. Like I said, I promised it would be quick. I told my dog I would give him a walk, and I want to do that before it gets dark out. But if you have any questions about your truck, please text them to 404-999-1361. If you are not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. I am actually sending out thank you hats to 3 lucky subscribers, new subscribers every week to our YouTube channel. So if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do, and like and follow and all that type of stuff. Find us on TikTok and Facebook and all the things. And if you have any questions, please post them down below. Questions, comments, whatever it might be. But thank you very much for watching this short and sweet live. I very much hope to see you again soon. I've got some great collaborations coming up, including Eben Rockmaker from Amsoil talking about synthetic oil and that sort of thing. Hopefully that'll be next week. And I'll be doing some more videos coming up very soon. Thanks for watching and have a good week coming up.